Hey, welcome to the Death of a Dream podcast. I'm your host, Hanna Nuss. I don't know if I say that clearly enough, but now you know. So, today, we're going to dive into our great things first, duh. And my great thing really is I went out one time. This is the first time that I've been out in the month of November for a very, I just need to walk. And honestly, I love my children. They're the greatest thing that's ever happened to me. But we've only us. We have been in this house. There have been no other people for the most part, other than people kind of doing drop-offs, porch drop-offs. And I just I needed outness. So bravely, we went out into the world, and I just wanted to get a tree for my backdrop here. And there were these really cool glittery trees, and there was this really cool garland. And I'm gonna get into detail on this because it's really important. Here's why. I was looking at all of it. I'm like, that garland's cool, but it's not quite on brand. I don't know. Plus, it's $10. That's absurd. It really is just yarn, which I want that because I want the depth of it. That tree is cool, but it's glittery. There were these really cool trees, and I wanted a sad looking Charlie Brown tree. But my backdrop here, if you're on video, on live, or on YouTube, my backdrop is a dark blue, a dark kind of peacock teal is how I would refer to it. And so if I get just a plain green tree, it's going to blend into the background. So I needed a frocked tree. And frocked, I think, means that it has snow dustings. And so I found one, but it was very full and frocked. And that wasn't going to work either because I wanted kind of a sad looking Charlie Brown tree. That was just my vision for this tree. And I couldn't find one. And I finally found one, but it was too small. And there were 3 of them. And then it went over my price point, which was $5 and under. Okay. And I'm looking, and I'm like, okay, there's going to be one. There's going to be one. It's not in this normal area, but you're going to find one. Someone will have ditched this tree somewhere. And lo and behold, 3 aisles over, the perfectly sized, frocked Charlie Brown tree was misplaced with the tissue paper. Just abandoned there. And I pick it up, and I turn over the price tag, and it's $5, people. I can't even. And then I'm like, I really want this yarn garland. I really want yarn garland. And it's $10. And it's not quite the right colors, but it's basically just yarn poofs, essentially. So I'm like, well, can I make yarn poofs? So I get on Pinterest real quick, I look up yarn poofs. Yeah, I can make yarn poofs. I'm just saying. So instead of buying the $10 yarn poofs, I go and buy a couple of spools of yarn for $1 a piece. And all of the colors are on brand. And so today I'll be making yarn garland for my backdrop tree here. And that's just kind of it in a nutshell. You can settle for the things that you don't want, or you can wait for the things that are meant for you. And my great thing was just waiting, continuing the patience train. If I couldn't have even found the frocked Charlie Brown tree abandoned in Target, I probably would have ventured onto a new store continuing to look. And while not all of us have that gift of time, I want you to give yourself that time. So start looking for things earlier. I know. Really, the goal is to give yourself enough time on any given purchase, when possible, to make a whole sound decision. So even when you're gift shopping, even when you're, and that really bodes well too for price shopping. Not settling for that higher price, waiting till it goes down. And sometimes you get it wrong and it goes up instead of down. But most of the time, if you put it out there in the world, what you're looking for, it's going to get served to you. It doesn't fail me very often, I will say that. Now, it did fail me in terms of the puffball excursion. But I ended up actually finding a better option. So we'll be making puffballs today. We'll be making some puffball garland that is just serving up all things beautiful and bounteous. I don't know if I quite got the right yarn, but I am determined to make it work. I may end up making tassels. I feel like some of my yarn is more like tassel worthy. I don't know. But we're going to make something wonderful regardless. And I'm so here for it. I'm just here above and beyond for this garland, for this sad little frocked Charlie Brown tree that will be in my background someday soon. And check it out, And my great thing is, once again, not settling for something that isn't going to serve me. If I had settled for the $3 tree that was glittery and cool, but not quite what I wanted, I just wouldn't have been as happy. Now I'm just in this beautiful space where I'm just serving me all the things. Happiness, beautiful, decor, wonderful. Let's go there. Let's get the things that we want in life. Let's stop settling for the things that we don't really want. Let's go. Why do you want something you aren't 100% in love with? You don't. Because you're going to end up, if I would have bought the $3 version and then I would have, 3 weeks later, seen the $5 frocked Charlie Brown tree, I would have bought that too. And then guess what happens? Well, you could have just spent $5 and said now you've spent, let me do the math, $5, $6, $7, $8 and more because of taxes and stuff. Come on, let's go. All right, that's my great thing. I found a beautiful frocked Charlie Brown Christmas tree and I'm so here for it. And it's going to just look lovely on this backdrop of mine, and backdrops are vital to me. I just love them. I love that extra branch of creativity and window into who I am and what I'm about. And y'all better know that I am about Christmas. Got it? Okay. Now you know. Let's go ahead and dive in. Today we are kind of on a week of thankfulness. I don't like to date these podcast in case you would hear this in the middle of summer and you're like, hey, it's not Thanksgiving. I don't know what you're talking about. But this week we're probably going to end up focusing really on gratitude and gratefulness. And I think today it's kind of setting the stage for let's go ahead and be grateful. But I want to make sure that we're not walking ourselves willingly down a path of complacency, because I think gratefulness has this beautiful way of balancing you out, giving you this insight into all the things that you love, helping you to stay grounded in the present moment. But if we sit there for too long, we have a tendency to walk ourselves over the edge and just sit and stay. And I think that comes from a lot of these backgrounds and these ideas around being grateful for what we have and staying stuck there, not because we don't want more, just because I don't know. For me, it was almost like, oh no, I shouldn't want more. Look at all the people who don't have this. Look at all the people who are suffering in this moment. Look at everything that I have. And so once I started really practicing gratefulness, and I used to write it in my journal every day because it was a journal prompt, I had to remind myself that the grateful practice really was about presence, but it wasn't about staying there because I'm so privileged. And I think it serves as a great reminder. So instead of, now that I have my own personalized journal, I'm just saying, and I don't have to follow journal prompts, instead of writing my gratefulness, and this is where I had to change the practice in order to adapt to me and how I live my life. So every morning I do say a prayer that really helps me to ground myself in gratefulness. That's how I start every day. I am like thanking the spirits, the heavens, the gods, everyone, for my life and for all of the amazing things that I have. And when I have those conversations with that higher being, it really is about, me being present every day, making sure that I'm calling into my life that just overall gratefulness and thankfulness for the life that I'm living. And when I was waking up, then I was getting up and I was journaling about the same exact things, and it just became super repetitive for me. And so I didn't want to waste my time journaling because I was already practicing that. And so I went ahead and got rid of that practice once I had my own notebook and I could live my own things out. Because for me, while gratefulness is super important, I'm practicing that in another way. And it's not something that I struggle with, right? And I think the repetitive nature of it, me saying it, praying for it, and then coming and writing it down, brought me too close to home. Like, okay, we're great. We get it, Hanna. You're grateful, right? And it kind of brought me to this place where I was like, oh no. And anyone who has these like overwhelming feelings for people, humans, I don't know. Some of us have it. Some of us have not been graced with such feelings. Some of us really struggle with that one. But if you do care about the human just population as a whole, this practice of gratefulness can really place you in a place of complacency, because it gets hard to sit there and look at all of the amazing things that you have, and you start to feel kind of selfish for wanting more, or at least I did. And so do not just get rid of being grateful. I think we just need to make sure that we are staying conscious of how we're practicing it. So conscious of the fact that you're not wrong. You're not wrong for wanting more. You're not wrong for not feeling complacent with where you're at in life. You're not wrong for being 100% grateful for everything that you have and still wanting more, even though it seems like gluttony at that point, right? Especially when we over practice gratefulness. It can just seem like we're being selfish. And so today I just want you to call back into yourself. Realize that everything that's been put in your heart, all of the goals and dreams and things that you're striving for, really wouldn't be called there if you weren't supposed to do something with it. Period. You wouldn't even have the idea. That's my belief. I actually believe more people know exactly what they want to do then don't. And I hear that from people time and time again, that they don't know what they want to do, that maybe they don't have dreams. And I really think you do. I think more often than not, we're scared of our dreams. But I would say there's not an idea that's put in your head or your heart that isn't meant for you to take and play out, whatever it is. And so for me, those ideas are sometimes overwhelming, especially when I launched into this new place that I'm in. Sometimes those ideas can throw you for a loop because sometimes they don't make a whole lot of sense. But I think the sense is made on the back end. So once you really start to pursue something, focusing on the one thing that you can make headway on and allowing those other things to kind of rhythmically play in and out. Then at some point, you'll understand where that line is being drawn and where that connection is being made. For me, I have this dream to write books, but not just yes, I want to write a bazillion books. But I find people's stories, no matter what they are, to be the most important thing that we can hold on to, period. And I find it really sad that stories kind of get buried, right? And eventually, maybe great grandma gets brought up at some Thanksgiving, maybe, but eventually those memories fade. And so every generation slowly but surely forgets. Actually, I thought the movie Coco, that was the first time that I was introduced to the Mexican tradition of the Day of the Dead. That moment for me, I was just like, this is so beautiful. This is so amazing because it keeps stories alive. Generation after generation, you keep telling that story. You keep bringing that person back. You actually know what your lineage is. You know your heritage. You don't have to take a DNA test to know who your great grandma is because you're still talking about her at once a year, right? And I just thought that was the most beautiful tradition. And how do you do that? How do you keep those stories alive? How do you keep telling those? And so I've had this idea to do that in a very unique way, but most importantly, keep those stories going and alive so you just don't forget, so you have a reference for your family. And that idea hasn't come to fruition yet. I don't have all of the pieces, right? But it's still there. It still comes back. And for me, it's just I know that when that's supposed to be put together, when I'm supposed to start chasing that everything will play out, that I'll be connected with what I'm supposed to be connected with. And I think that paired with I'm grateful. I'm so grateful that I even had the idea, right? But it can be easy to get lost in well, I had the idea, but nothing's really happening with it, so let's just toss it away. I want you to hold on to those ideas tight, right? Let's go ahead and be thankful for the idea. We don't always have to have all of the pieces in play. It doesn't mean that it's going to work out today, but if you can take whatever step you can take today and keep that alive a little bit, then do that. Don't just throw it away, okay? Timing doesn't always play in our favor, period. And so, but again, nothing would be put in your heart or in your head that was not specifically made for you. So there is a way for you to get that done, period, all day long. I want you to hold tight to those things. Don't toss them away. Don't do that, right? And so how do we balance all of this? Because there's no question. I want you to be grateful. I think it just comes down to being grateful really is about present tense for me. Being grateful helps me to sit in the space that I'm in right now. I have a tendency to like FOMO my entire life away. Trust, I spent at least 6 years FOMOing, like, oh no, I'm going to miss out. Ew. And so much that I could never be anywhere for very long, right? I was always thinking about the next thing. And so gratefulness is really a practice in presence. And I think when we think of it that way, that helps us to not step over into the complacency space or the scarcity space where we're like, oh no, there's not enough for the rest of the world. If I'm taking everything, nobody will get theirs and I'm selfish. And so when we practice gratefulness as a presence grounding practice, it's helping us to be right here in this moment every single day. And I want you to practice gratefulness however you feel called. So if that's a prayer every morning, if that's writing the things down, the more tangible that you make it, the more of an impact that's going to have on you. So if this is something that you've been struggling with, for me, for probably, I don't know, a year, I wrote down the things that I was grateful for. It was important for me to make that tangible because I struggled with that present piece so much, with really sitting with myself in the present moment. And so I made it more tangible so that I made it a habit. I could see myself doing it. I could feel the words flowing out of my fingers. It wasn't just like, say it, drop it, get up, start the day. It was say it in a prayer, write it in a book. And that practice really helped me to establish the habit, but it also helped me to over perfect this practice of gratefulness. And so now that I've kind of graduated myself to the next level where I don't have to do the tangible thing, it really serves as a way for me to check my presence for the day. Always start my day with being thankful for my present reality. Okay? And how we don't shift that into, oh no, I'm taking from the world and I'm so amazing. I think it's just like your balance looks like your balance. So I always want to look at, how am I serving a bigger, greater purpose outside of just serving myself? And so maybe this thought that you're just self-serving, and trust me, if you're working on your goals or your dreams, some of that work is going to feel completely selfish. And it's not. You owe it to yourself to chase the things you want in life. No matter where you are, no one's story has to derail you from that. I would say if you're feeling selfish or self-serving, I want you to find something that aligns with your purpose that's just service-based, period. So for me, that looks like volunteering for organizations that help people to chase their own dreams. It also looks like me serving people who, are just getting started in chasing their dreams, helping them to do something that just allows them to run this direction of whatever it is. Start that business, start that podcast, start that blog, start that whatever. Like, if I get to be that jumping off point for people, then that's such a great service to me. That's amazing to me. And that helps me to give back to something that I feel really called to give back to. And that helps curb that thought that it's a scarcity model, that the world really is only catered towards me and the things that I want, and I'm being selfish. And you are, and you have to be, right? So let's go ahead and curb that if you want to volunteer. All I'm saying is, if you do that, I want to make sure that it aligns with what you're going after. So if you don't work with food scarcity and that's not something that is like passionate in your heart, maybe don't go do that work. Don't just volunteer to feel better about yourself. I want you to do something that aligns and lights you up. So pick that cause that matters to you. Don't just pick one because it's there, because you want to get this weight off of your heart, because you'll just end up taking on a weight that maybe isn't yours to bear. Okay, pick something that makes sense with who you are and what excites you in this world. But definitely, if you're feeling that pull, if you're feeling like you have so much, it's terrible for you to ask for more, go ahead and lighten the load of that. Take on something if you have time to give. Take on something, it can be small, that aligns with the work that you eventually want to do or that you're working on right now. Right? And just give back. It will definitely lighten that load for you and help you to cross over into this place where we aren't just sitting complacent because we're worried about the rest of the world. And I know it's hard not to, but if you start serving the world, you can lighten that load a little bit. So those are kind of my recommendations for how you balance gratefulness with complacency, because it can be really easy to wake up every morning, like I was, to write the things down, to be like, oh, I'm so grateful. Wow, my life is so amazing. Holy cow, I don't deserve any more. But you do. You do. You deserve the things that you want in life. You deserve the things that are in your heart. You deserve the life that you envision for yourself. Period. And even if you don't feel bad about that pursuit, right, then just you keep on going. You don't have to volunteer and give back if that's not called on your heart. It's called on mine, but that really is up to you. Your movement in the direction of your higher self, of your greater purpose, of the dreams that you have for yourself, your movement in that direction is the most vital part of this, right? And if you feel called, go ahead. Be thankful. No question. If you're still alive and breathing on this earth, if you really think about how incredible that is enough to be grateful for every breath that you take every single day, right? Like life, the fact that you were made, it's amazing. Okay? The fact that you were born, the fact that you're still here, when you think about like, oh my gosh, some of the cars that I got in college, some of the cars that I got in as a 16-year-old, right? So many things can go wrong in any given day. So no question, be grateful all day long, right? Use it as a presence grounding exercise instead of as a complacency exercise. I think sometimes people want us to be grateful, so we just stay stagnant and we stop asking. And when we pose gratefulness as that, it can be really hard to move forward and not feel bad about it. And I don't want you to feel bad. I want you to practice it for presence purposes, but I don't want you to practice it if it's going to hold you back. Okay? All right. That's all that we have today. I don't know. Normally I have a less awkward ending, but I don't have one today. So it's all awkward. As always, you're smart, you're strong, you're beautiful. What are you going to do? Change the world.